It is alive, and we're live, and we're talking about Frankenstein, Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein, which had a limited theatrical run and is now available for all to see on Netflix. We are Earth's Mightiest Critics, and tonight we're going to talk about the movie in what I like to call spoilerific detail. You might think you know the story of Frankenstein, but it hasn't been quite told like this. And to my great dismay, I'm kind of playing my hand early here. The novel by Mary Shelley has yet to be actually adapted, which I was hoping for because Guillermo del Toro professed that his first love was Mary Shelley. So I thought, great, he's going to adapt the book. And no. So I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Jeff York of The Establishing Shot, the blonde in front herself, or as I like to call her, the bride in front, Katie Glidewell. David Fowley of Keeping It Real, and visiting us from Academia Giallo, we have another crossover episode here, Brian Martinez of the Giallo Room. How you doing, sir?
Good. Happy to be on the show. Like I've always seen you guys, and it's like, you know, I wonder what it takes to be on this like league of extraordinary critics. So now I'm on. So
yes, you are, and David is going to be back on. I think. Hold on. Trying to he's got to connect still. I think there might be a connectivity issue, but we'll let him back in when he's available. Wait, hold on. I see him. I see the giant. Wow. Okay, it's gonna be one of these. It's gonna be an experimental evening, which goes along with the theme. Try and bring his stream, his connection back to life.
It's electrifying.
Oh, now I'm thinking about Grease. I love it. Before we get into, I guess, the synopsis, I just want to set the table here. And when David comes back, he can answer this question. How many of you have read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the novel?
A long time ago.
Okay.
Now.
Long time ago.
All right. Is it long enough ago, Brian? I'm curious that you recall the liberties that Del Toro took in telling his version, because he not only directed, but he wrote the screenplay for this movie.
Like, I understand like his version versus the actual novel. I wasn't looking for the novel because, like I don't want to piss people off or whatever, but I was never really drawn to Frankenstein novel or otherwise, like throughout my entire life. I've just never really, I was always more a Dracula guy.
Okay.
So when it came to Frankenstein, it was like, yes, I understand there's masterpieces, there's amazing performances, there's all that, right? But for me, it just never really like clicked until I've seen this movie. And then it was like, oh, okay, I see where the love is for this particular character. So that's how I approached it.
And that's gonna be a great perspective to approach this from, because I had never read the novel until preparing to watch the film. And yesterday I finished it. It took me like a little more than a week to get through the whole thing because I think I read the 1831 version. I can't remember. It was 1818, then she revised it in 1831. So I'm not quite sure which one I read. The book I have has a lot of prefatory material, and they talk about there being differences, but I don't know if they actually specified which one it was. From what I understand, it's just more of a tweak in the language and not necessarily like major plot points differences. Right. But I've watched the 31 version. I've seen all of the Hammer Frankenstein films, and I love those and the different interpretations. But none of them, I think, compare to the story that Shelley laid out in the original book. And I feel like it's kind of a crime that it hasn't been adapted yet. And I don't quite understand why. Maybe we can talk about that this evening, along with judging Del Toro's Frankenstein on its own merits, which is also kind of tricky because he's been kind of touting this as this is not the 31 movie. This is the book, and it's not the book. Okay, so Katie, you have not read Frankenstein. Jeff, sorry, go ahead, Katie.
No, I can't read, so I have not read the book.
We could read it to you.
Yeah, that would be fun. That we could do a group reading to you. Like we'll take a couple months. We'll rotate doing bedtime stories. Well, you won't sleep, but that'll be fun.
There's this doctor, KDC, and he was working in his laboratory late one night.
Oh no.
That would be amazing.
Although, Katie, given your performance in the short film Script Tease, I would say that you should read the book to us because your voice is featured prominently in that film.
Thank you, Ian.
You're welcome. All right, so Jeff, how recently familiar are you with the book? I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to really set the table here because a lot of this is going to kind of guide the conversation and my personal difficulty with watching this movie. So I just want to see where we're all at in terms of our headspace. So Jeff, go ahead.
I read it originally in junior high, and it was one of the things that I think really helped make me like horror. The other one was the TV movie The Night Stalker with Darren McGavin.
Nice.
That really sort of jolted me, like, wow, a TV movie can make me terrified. But it was such a modern, weird take on vampirism in Vegas of all cities. But I loved the original book when I read it, and I return to it, I'd say, every 3 or 4 years probably and read it. I'm sort of the same way with the other two big sort of tentpole literary classics, both Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, as it's called, as well as Bram Stoker's Dracula. So my guess is I probably read this 2 or 3 years ago, but it's one that I enjoy reading a lot of times, and there's always more to discover, and the symbolism, and it's an extraordinary book because, you know, she was so young when she wrote it, all of 18, and it was kind of a competition, so it was sort of under almost a lark kind of auspices to begin with. But it's you know, I just think it stands up as this sort of a great world tragedy, something that goes beyond the genre of horror, though it certainly is a major player in that, to be something that's very affecting. And maybe that's why I return to that and some other great novels, because it does have so much beyond just the scares.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, David, welcome back. I'm glad you had to repower up the old lab, it looks like.
That's right. My funding for my tower ran out.
Well, hopefully your benefactor ended up better than Mr. Christoph Waltz in this film. But so we're just kind of going around the virtual room here. Have you read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the book?
It's been a while,
Okay.
probably since high school. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's, you know, I have a condensed version that I read, and then there's a more like the actual version, and yeah, Cliff Notes. And then there's the like classic illustrated like comic version that came out and everything. So yeah, a lot of I would say iterations of the novel I've read. Yes.
Okay, cool. So Del Toro's Frankenstein, the best way I can describe it in terms of like being an adaptation, and I know not everyone's read it, so I don't want to make this completely about it, but Del Toro took about 5% of the book and put it in his movie. And the rest of it, I mean, you could say that this version is a skeleton, but if that's the case, half the bones are missing and the other half are broken. There are the two like central driving characters in this story are not in the movie. The other characters who are part of the story are in the movie, but they're so drastically different in terms of their presentation and their purpose, their service of the story, that they might as well not exist. I like Jacob Elordi's performance as the creature, but I didn't like what Del Toro did with the creature. And the same thing with Oscar Isaac. Yeah, mostly, I mean, this is a big letdown for me. People are praising the visuals, the production design, the costumes, the effects, as they do with all of Del Toro's films. And I am usually a pretty big fan. But as I was telling Jeff in a conversation earlier today, I couldn't see the movie. Like all this, the pizzazz, the bells and whistles, the presentation, the reason people were saying you have to go see this in the theater. I am glad I did not see this in a movie theater, because I couldn't see it past what they were doing to the story. Frequently in the film, the creature is referred to as an abomination, and that's how I would describe this movie. It's a beautiful looking mistake. And I'm just hoping that at some point, someone is actually going to adapt Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, because it's all there. One of the great revelations of the novel is realizing this was invented long before cinema, and yet is a very cinematic book and a narratively daring book. It is, Inception as a novel, because you start off with this, flash forward of Frankenstein, Dr. Victor Frankenstein, at the top of the world, pursuing his creation to the ends of the earth, literally running across this ship that's been frozen in the ice. He's on the verge of death, and he recounts his tale to this ship captain. And inside that tale, he talks about the creation of the monster and how in his adult life he pursued the monster, found him, and the monster told him his story because they were apart for 2 years while the monster was in the wilderness. And then the narrative switches points of view. And so we get the monster's story. And then we get a side story about this couple in I'm sorry, someone have a TV on or something? Because I'm getting like there's something going on here. I'm hearing voices.
I am too. I don't know where.
I'm hearing it too.
Yeah, my TV's off, and I don't know if somebody wants to mute.
Yeah.
I live alone, so no voices. Just those in my head.
Yikes. Anyhow, thank you. But there's a kind of a side narrative within the monster's telling of this family that he's observing for a couple of years, that he's hiding out in their a side room of their cottage, and then it kind of wraps back around to the modern telling, and even does a few more diversions. So when I'm reading this book, I'm thinking to myself, this would be phenomenal to see captured on film, because I haven't seen it before. Again, in the 31 version, in any of the Hammer films, which I love for various reasons, but never this version of the story. And Del Toro sidesteps it all. He divides things up into neat chapters. He has characters in rooms that don't make any sense doing these sustained monologues, which in the reality of the scenes in which they're taking place, again, they don't make any sense. The monster gives his monologue, his story, while in the room with Victor Frankenstein and the captain and Frankenstein's on his deathbed. And yet moments before, there were people trying to barge down the door and kill this thing because the monster had gone on the ship, a monster that attacked the ship like the night before. And yet somehow everybody pauses so this thing can tell an hour-long sob story. That's just one of the issues. The other problem I have is with the Elizabeth character, who's sort of the love interest. She's a completely different person, a completely detestable person in this one. And spoiler alert, Katie, the only time she meets the monster in the book is when it kills her at the very end. I was baffled by all of the decisions. As I was describing it earlier today, it's like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is the plot points and the themes are a landmine, and Guillermo Del Toro did everything in his power to avoid all the mines at all costs. So, for people who loved it, have at it.
I kind of regret getting you that book now.
I don't, because honestly, 2025 has been the year that I've read more books that have been turned into movies than I think ever.
And you've been disappointed with each one.
With each one.
No. Life of Chuck.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think was a great adaptation. And even the movies that I hated, a lot of it is Stephen King that we're talking about, because he's had, like, I think 5-6 projects adapted this year. I have not regretted any of the novels, but I have just been baffled by the interpretations going, back to the monkey in February. But no, I'm glad that you gave me that book, David, because it is up there on my list of one of the best things I've ever read. And I can't believe I'm almost 50 and I've never read Frankenstein. So it's a great reward. And unfortunately, I'm talking about it in the context of this movie, a film that, from a director I love, from a story that I couldn't wait to see adapted, but which ultimately let me down. So sorry, David, I cut you off. Go for it, sir.
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I saw it in the theater. I was like right there up close. I like the way it's structured. I like the way it deviates from the novel. I understand why. I mean, I think each movie, I agree with you, Ian, like no Frankenstein movie has really come close to completely adapting the novel. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Because I don't expect, because when we're transitioning from literature to film, there's going to be some deviation. I get it. And I didn't even mind how some characters were totally different. Some characters were new. That it was totally fine with me.
Well, I guess I just want to pull over in a second, because what you just said there is something that has come up in every conversation that I've ever had about adaptation. And I used to kind of be okay with it and say, yeah, that's probably true. But the more I read and the more I see talented filmmakers taking on this material, my question is, why? Why does there have to be something that's lost in translation? Especially because now, okay, going back to 1931, sure, you can't pull off a lot of like the Arctic stuff, and that movie was an hour and 8 minutes long. This is 2.5 times that. I understand having to take some license based on the technology and budgets and things, but now you can literally do anything. And I mentioned 2.5 hour runtime. You could cover all of the Frankenstein novel if you literally run it through Chat GPT and have it knock out your screenplay. My question to you, David, is, aside from the kind of easy, and this isn't a criticism of you, it's something people say, aside from, well, it's not going to be a perfect translation, what about this novel do you think would have been difficult to adapt to a film? Why is that true in this case?
I'm not saying it would be difficult to adapt it. I'm just saying I agree with you that it hasn't been done yet. Why? I don't have that answer. But I think
I just want to see if there's something like that struck out to you as like, oh, that wouldn't have worked or whatever.
I have a guess.
I mean, I think maybe, and I know what you were saying earlier about how Shelley kind of wrote this in a very cinematic way. I get it. But I feel like most people, and like you said, the 31 version has its limitations. Probably every version throughout many decades has its limitations. But I think each filmmaker is going to take from the story what kind of means, what really means the most to them from the story, and bring it to their own vision, bring it to their own fruition. So I think when you look at all of Del Toro's movies, all of it's kind of been leading up to his version of Shelley's story. So it just seems very fitting to me, within his wheelhouse, especially the way he's presenting this story. And that's why I really didn't have a problem with it. I kind of compare it to, like, say, when I talk about like literature and a live action adaptation, I haven't seen all of Walking Dead, but I've read the whole comic series.
Yeah, weren't there like 14 seasons or something ridiculous like that? Yeah.
I didn't catch up with all of it, but
right.
But what I did watch, it's like the hit character in that show is Daryl, right? He's not even in the comics. Okay.
Right.
So what I guess I've kind of gotten used to the fact that, like, you can add something to an existing story when you're adapting it, and it can possibly enhance the story, or it can, accentuate it a little bit more, or give it some kind of a different dimension or texture. And it's still, to me, at least when we're talking here about this Frankenstein, it still has the framework of the themes of the story and everything like that. So, I'm kind of, I have no problem with not seeing a direct, translation of the source.
No, I'm glad you brought up Walking Dead, because I think that's a really great comparison. And I would say that the difference is Robert Kirkman was involved in adapting it, for AMC, along with, Frank Darabont in that first season.
Right.
So even as he changed things from a comic that was still in progress, by the way, that, the comic book and the show are running concurrently, although the comic was, several, runs ahead, if you will. You still had the vision, the voice of the creator to say, okay, this is appropriate. I'm going to add this character. And then based on fan reaction, okay, we're going to blow him up, but we're going to make him consistent with the world and the voice of the story that we're telling. The difference, though, and this comes down to personal taste, I admit it.
Mhm.
But if you're going to be so cavalier as to take one of the most beloved novels of all time that you profess in TV interviews is, Mary Shelley is your favorite, she was your first love, she's one of your favorite authors, you respect the hell out of the material, then if you're not going to adapt it, you better make sure that whatever you're changing can stand on the shoulders of that work. Because none of the additions or the subtractions that Del Toro did in this story did anything to enhance the story or anybody's understanding of it. In fact, all of the themes of the novel are butchered and rendered down to the runoff of every other generic Frankenstein story that we've seen. Whereas what's going on in the novel is a unique take on those themes. I've never seen these ideas presented to that degree and that specificity as I did on the pages of Mary Shelley's book, which is why I was so disappointed that we didn't see that adapted. I think part of it, I'm a victim of publicity, because if it was just Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein and not him out there pimping like, hey, this is my version of the book, then I would have been like, yeah, this is just another bad, beautiful looking bad Frankenstein movie. And I could have moved on. Brian, wait, hold on. Wait, sorry. Jeff, you wanted to jump in with something earlier.
I don't want to get in front of other people who have their takes on it. I think I actually have a thought on why it has not been done here and hasn't been done as thoroughly and maybe properly as it should have over the many, many iterations of it. I think the novel is tougher than filmmakers want to be. And I think it's a very cruel and mean book. It's a brilliant book, but there's this need to have a good guy and a bad guy generally in film, protagonist, antagonist. And okay, so Victor seems like he's the hero here, but he's not. Of course, everybody calls it Frankenstein's monster, and they think Frankenstein is Frankenberry, the Karloff cliche. But Frankenstein is named as the character study of the doctor, and he's the villain here. So then Hollywood says, well, then we need somebody good to cheer for. And that ends up being the sympathetic creature. But the way the story is written, at first the creature is very sympathetic because he's abandoned as a child. This man who wants to play God and create a Prometheus sense of the world does this, and then he doesn't know what to do with the creation once it's done. He is the creator who's trying to be God, and once it's the creation, he turns his back on it, which is almost an allegory for the way some people think religion is. But as the story progresses, the character of the creature first is coming out from all these terrible odds against him. His abandonment, his lack of love. He's, literally sort of alone in the world, doesn't know what he's doing, and yet he learns to think, learns to survive, learns to read, learns to talk, learns to communicate. But then here's where the novel gets really interesting. It becomes this sort of cat and mouse game between him and Victor, where he wants something from Victor and he starts killing. And he kills his brother and he kills his soon-to-be wife, and he wants this Victor to create a bride for him. And then when Victor says, no, I can't do that. We can't have two of you in the world. And what if somehow she can procreate? What are we doing? Can't have that. And again, he's playing sort of this God sort of thing, but the creature then retaliates, and it becomes this sort of tragedy that there's kind of no victors in it, even though he's named Victor Frankenstein. If he's a victor of anything, it's killing everything he touches. And then the creature, as I said earlier today, I said, when Nick Nolte says to Kate Nell again is talking to her and insults her in Prince of Tides, and she says in a Southern Gothic manner, where'd you learn to be so cruel? And he goes, from you, mama. And it's like, careful the things you say, children will listen and learn from you. That's the crux of this book. And Hollywood doesn't want to see that. They want us to cheer for somebody good on screen. And so, I don't know, maybe Fred Gwynne didn't help things either, being so lovable in the 60s. But Eddie, we're going to make the creature very sweet. And I think they're unwilling to face the dark material that Shelley has written. It's got to be the reason, because they've done it over and over and over again. And their lives, there was that TV movie in the 70s with Michael Cera and Jane Seymour and James Mason, which was called Frankenstein, the True Story. Not at all. In fact, that's probably the farthest one away from the real story. It's like, I don't know what they're doing, but they just somehow cannot translate Shelley, maybe because it's too uncompromising, it's too dark, and it's a sad tale. It's a tragic tale. And I think they want this to be entertaining and not have people bummed out. But I think it's a beautifully told story. And movies, just as novels or any stories, should be able to bum us out. And that's entertaining too, even though it's not ha ha, laugh, laugh, come back and see it 3 more times kind of entertainment. But my guess is that may be the reason.
Well, it's puzzling because I don't disagree with you, but I'm thinking Del Toro should be the person to do that story, because if you look back,
Pan's Labyrinth.
I was going to say Pan's Labyrinth, The Devil's Backbone, like he made his bones in the movie industry, not by the whole kind of Tim Burton-y, it's all about aesthetics and curly cues and fantasy. But we don't need to talk about The Shape of Water.
Wow.
For me, that was the Tim Burton's Dumbo of Guillermo Del Toro's career until I saw this movie. The only thing good about The Shape of Water, I will give it this, is that I went to a cocktail reception where I met Michael Stuhlbarg and Michael Shannon. Okay, Brian Frankenstein.
Brian
Talk to me.
Frankenstein?
Yes, that's his new name.
Um,
I'm saving the bride for last.
I love this movie. Like I heard you talk and give your dissertation about your, opinion of this film. I just, everything about it, I watched it twice and I want to watch it again.
I appreciate you did. I know you did your homework. You watched it again last night, and I appreciate that. It's fresh. Okay.
My complaint, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I wish it was actually longer. Like I could have just gotten lost in this entire world that Del Toro actually, I think he's the one that takes, the story, this brilliant, classic, iconic story, but I think he makes it his own. I think David was absolutely 100% correct when he said his films kind of leads up to this. Like I don't look at this as my favorite Del Toro film, but I can see that Del Toro is like drunk off his ass on this movie, on himself. You know what I mean? Like this is 100% just amazing Del Toro. And I'm a huge Del Toro fan. I liked Shape of Water. I loved Crimson Peak. Like I just love when he just lets himself go. And I think he does that here. He's always professed his love for monsters. If you look at his Oscar speech, like he references how monsters are always looked at as like, just the different looking thing or whatever. And differences and all that can be, they can be beautiful. And I think that's what he captures in this movie. I think he's been waiting all his life to kind of represent his voice within, this existing property called Frankenstein. But when you look at all the nuances that he provides in this movie, they're so brand new. Like it's like he takes something that already exists and then creates something 100% new. Like I've never seen, my pedigree in terms of Frankenstein isn't very vast. I look at Frankenhooker as one of my favorite adaptations or whatever, but it's because I think that movie's fun.
Yeah,
this one,
Frankenweenie.
Oh, like stuff like that. I just, you can't help but love. But this movie, I think for me, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion, this is probably my favorite, like Frankenstein movie of all time. But again, I'm a little biased because I love Del Toro. I love the performances all across the board, like in this movie. The music's amazing, the way that it looks, just every little shot. Like I feel like you could, they say this about Suspiria all the time. And, I'm the guy that brings in Italian stuff, but they say that you can pause Suspiria at any given moment and then frame that as like artwork, right? Yeah. I feel like you could do that with this film. So, I I like, if you want to jump back on and talk about this movie, I'll watch it again for this podcast. I just think it's such an enjoyable, richly enjoyable movie for me. So
Okay. No, I appreciate that. And we're going to circle back to some of that after we get Katie's thoughts. Sorry, the bride.
Okay, so I am, and if you can tell by my snaps, I'm in agreement with Brian and David. I have not read the book, and to me, this is a very different Frankenstein than I've ever seen before. However, watching this, I did see it in the theater, and watching this in the theater, I never saw like Frankenstein as a film about parenting and raising a child and what it takes to be a father and what happens to mothers and stuff like that. And when I was doing, like, after watching this film and seeing how old Mary Shelley was when she had her first child, and then she had her first child a year before she made Frankenstein, and then she was either pregnant or about to be pregnant and have her second child right afterwards. And to me, which I guess this doesn't, since I didn't read the book, I can't say, but to me, I feel like this is so much about, if you are going to create something, you can't just let it go and think that you don't have any, like, responsibility for it. Like, parenting is hard. It's frustrating. There is that unconditional love that you have with that being that you created, but it takes time. And with Frankenstein, all he wanted to do was create something, and then he didn't think of the afterthought. And that, to me, is like an allegory to, like, this is what parenting is. This is, and I think about what it was like in the 1800s, especially for, I mean, she had 4 kids, I think, by the age of like 23 or something. And
well, right, but at least half of them died. I mean,
yeah, that's the thing. Half of them died before adulthood. But, you know, at that time, it's like, you know, a woman that was mostly her job, was to have kids, and then the father would leave and, you know, do nothing with it, just, you know, pop a seed in. And I felt like even at the beginning of the film, like with Frankenstein mother, who I think was, so many people don't realize, you know, that's Mia Goth playing dual roles, which I knew right away from her voice. But, you know, to see her in that beautiful red gown and stuff, and then to perish because of motherhood, and then you have this child that, and, you know, he makes a point, it's like, my father is one of the most prolific, you know, and, you know, world-renowned surgeons, but yet he couldn't save my mother, or he chose not to save my mother. And that to me was, you know, big. I don't know. I haven't read the book, so I never, every adaptation, I didn't really see it like that. So that to me was an eye opener. I love the fact that David Bradley had that beautiful, kind surrogate father figure like he had in Pinocchio, which is one of my all-time favorite Del Toro films. And I mean, just like Brian and David said, I love the visuals. I love the art design. I love production design, the costuming. I mean, I cannot believe that Jacob Elordi had this role and only had 3 weeks. Like, this was supposed to be Andrew Garfield, which I cannot see with the height difference, because Jacob Elordi is like 6'5". Like, he's a big guy.
I think they would have done like a reverse Hobbit thing on him. They would have artificially made him, you know, taller and CG.
I know. I just don't.
Camera angles.
Like, it boggles my mind. But then that he got the role, and just the physicality of it was just, to me, I mean, obviously, I think people have been saying this, but this is by far like the biggest, you know, role he's ever had, I feel, and his best one yet, I thought. But yeah, it's like when he just kept saying Victor, 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 and Oscar Isaac's like, yes, I get it, you know my name. It's like, I know moms who, once their child starts talking and they just say mom, 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 it's like, that to me was just such, it's like, I know what Victor is going through. And yes, it's like postpartum depression, like, oh my gosh, stop saying, you know, my name, you're driving me crazy. And I don't know. I never saw that in a Frankenstein film before. I like the fact that Elizabeth wasn't the coquettish, love interest. And I take it that's
But
what she's supposed to be in the
No.
book. I'm not going to, but I like the fact that she actually had somewhat of a brain and feelings. And, despite the fact that this is a male driven world, and she's been in a convent, she's like, yeah, the war sucks. You guys are idiots. Go have your cigars, and I'm gonna have my thoughts and play with my bugs. And I love the fact that even though there's just unconditional love between her and the creation. I don't like to call him the monster. I like to call him the creation because that's what he is. That when she'd rather be with him, in her last moments, this creation that she's only met like twice than any thing around here because she hates the world that we're living in. I mean, the cinematography is just absolutely gorgeous, but the main negative I have, and I wrote this down, the CGI of those wolves were pretty bad. And my friend wrote, yeah, I feel like they were very like Twilight. And I was like,
Yes. Yeah.
that's it.
At least they weren't quite Hulk dogs, but yeah, maybe Twilight.
Yeah. And I was like, girl, you just nailed it. That is what I was trying to think of. She's like, yeah, they were very Twilight wolves. I'm like, yes. Which
I thought that about the mice, like when he's
Yeah,
yeah. I
a little
didn't
too
necessarily understand the whole,
anthropomorphic.
like,
yeah
Snow White. I felt that was very Disney-esque with
yes
the
Yes,
animals just like, I'm the innocent, look at me. But
Cinderella,
at the same
Cinderella.
time, it's supposed to be that he's the innocent, so the animals, treat
Right.
him like an equal and a friend, and they don't mind him. Although they really did cute up those mice because it's like they're either going to be rats, and I was like, those are damn cute mice, so obviously those are fake. But yeah, I thought it was a beautiful film. I can see why he loved it. I love the characters. I love this adaptation of Frankenstein so much.
Well,
that
I think
could read this for
here's
the rest of my life. I'm not just for this podcast.
here's the thing. I understand where you're coming from, Katie. The problem is, and I was tempted to jump in after just about every sentence you said, because none of what you described has anything to do with the story of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as on the page. So we cannot, I'm saying it, we cannot call this an adaptation in any sense of the word. It is a version of the Frankenstein story, but you mentioned the CGI wolves. You know what would have been a great way to fix the CGI wolves is by adapting Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, because none of that happened. The whole relationship with the old man, that was completely different. That was more, Del Toro basically cribs from other Frankenstein adaptations to Frankenstein together his version of this movie, because the blind man, that was a relic of the Bride of Frankenstein,
And
the
Young
sequel.
Frankenstein.
And Young Frankenstein. There was a bit of that there too, which I think was Young Frankenstein was more respectful of the 1931 Frankenstein than this version of Del Toro's movie is respectful towards Mary Shelley's novel. And that's the unfortunate thing.
Can I ask you a question, Ian?
Yeah,
Just,
please.
well, because I want to just say that I don't think some of the things that Katie and Brian and David have said are wrong. I mean, it's beautifully done. A lot of it is well acted. It's the production design and all the elements of a Del Toro film that make it a Del Toro film are here, and they're done in many ways eye-poppingly fantastic. But here's my question, and I guess this goes back to the story, and maybe I'm too dog with the bone on this, but does a filmmaker not have a little more responsibility to interpret the material that somebody else wrote? Now, I can tell you that Del Toro is his own filmmaker, and he's done original things, and this is his take on it, as others have. I mean, God knows Christopher Nolan took so many licenses with Batman that, I didn't even recognize Ra's al Ghul and his daughter, or, different places where they take license, et cetera, et cetera. But knowing that if he is such a big history fan and a film cinephile and, loves Mary Shelley's book, doesn't he know that that's never really been done properly on the screen? I mean, the closest you come is the Danny Boyle Film National Theater production from about 13 years ago, where Benedict Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller traded places every night. But even that one took some license with it. I guess I ask all of us as film fans, let alone film critics, even if you haven't read the book, but doesn't the filmmaker who professes to love that book owe it a little bit more? I mean, I'll give you an example. They've made a couple versions of The Great Gatsby, and it's pretty damn close to what F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote. They don't change it like, well, we're not going to kill off Gatsby in this one. No, we're going to kill off Gatsby. And it's going to be Myrtle gets hit by the car, and Daisy and Tom go back to doing all the damage they have, as is the last lines of the book. Why does Mary Shelley get to be passed over so much? Because of what reasons? I mean, I suggested that they might be, sort of Hollywood reasons, which may or may not be the case. But I'm sitting here as a fan of the book, as a fan of Del Toro, wondering why couldn't he make more of this story that he professes love? And shouldn't we all, as film fans or even critics, if we're going to talk about adaptations in an aesthetic way, want a little bit more of that? I mean, you can make the most gorgeous film, and if it betrays the material, how gorgeous is it? That's window dressing.
Well, and I think
ignoring the basic crux of the story in a lot of regards, and it's kind of infuriating to me because, like I said, it hasn't been done, and he had the opportunity to do with 150 million that no other filmmakers had.
Well, I think that's and what you're all touching on here is the aesthetics, and I think Guillermo del Toro, I agree, would have been the perfect filmmaker to adapt the book if he had reined in his Del Toro-ness and kind of gone back to his roots with certainly The Devil's Backbone and even to a great extent Pan's Labyrinth, because that movie, although there were a couple of fantastical sequences and creatures in it, it was still very much it felt like it took place in a real place where there were occasional like fantasy, like peeking into these fantastical realms, and there was a big contrast. Here, it's all nipples on the bat suit. Like, I didn't care for the big, the giant red dresses and Mia Goth's like amazing wedding gown that looked like it was designed for New York Fashion Week. Everything in this movie is overblown.
That coffin, though. That coffin.
Come on. I hated the coffin. I'm like,
are you serious?
Yes. It looked no, Brian.
Amazing.
Here's the thing. It looks cool.
Yes.
It looks cool. But this is
and
not
you can
a story.
Stop there.
No,
because it looked cool. Period.
No, it's not a story about cool. Okay, it's a story. It's a very human story. It's about other things than production design and aesthetics. I mean, let's just look at the shack where the creature. I'll give the respect of calling him the creature, Katie. If you hear me calling it the creation, well, creature doesn't really have a negative connotation. Creation doesn't roll off the tongue.
Creature.
Creature. Okay.
I think Guillermo.
I'll call him
would be
Creech
proud.
in flashback to Image Comics.
I think
Anyhow,
Guillermo would be proud if you called him Monster.
Maybe, but I don't want to upset Katie because she is the bride. The shack, that entire sequence takes up the middle portion of the book, and there's a lot devoted to it, including the history of the family that lives in the shack behind which our creation is spying, kind of learning how to become human and spending a lot of time just getting up the courage to approach them. In the novel, it's like a crawl space. It's a very small area that you can kind of slip in and out of. He only goes out at night, whereas in this movie, he's walking around the damn woods during the daytime, this 8-foot tall man within like 50 yards of people, and no one's like, hey, who's that guy over there? But anyway, I'm talking about only production design. In this movie, he happens upon this house that doesn't look like any house I've ever seen outside of like Hobbiton. It is a Guillermo del Toro of what a poverty-stricken shack looks like. He goes in, and his crawl space is literally inside this barn that's like a TARDIS, because you go into this thing and all of a sudden there's these gigantic gear wheels that I don't know what they do in there, but inside it looks like it's like 8 stories tall, but from the outside it's this hovel. And he takes up residence there, and he's hiding there for several months, and no one goes in there to do anything or to check on anything. Plus, there's a giant tree knothole. There is a scene where he's looking through this knothole directly in the eye line of the little girl who's at the table opposite him, and no one thinks, hey, there's an eyeball back there. I'm just watching this thinking, Guillermo Del Toro is smarter than this. But I feel like he got so caught up in the, hey, wouldn't this look cool? They never stopped to think, does any of this make any damn sense? That's where I'm coming from.
I
Katie.
do agree that it did seem silly that no one went in that area the entire time, at least that we saw. And yes, that he was like, you know, the spirit of the forest and did stuff. My little confusion, which, as I've said before, I go with the five senses. I feel like someone would have smelled him even through that hole. And that would have been the first thing whenever he came around. It's like, oh, damn. What died? Oh shit! The creature's here. That to me, because it's like, yes, all of his limbs are sewed on. Yes, technically he is alive and he's regenerating and all this stuff. I still think you don't never see him bathe really. So I mean, I still feel like there would have been, you know, the odor that would have come forth and been that would have killed probably more people than that he killed on that ship. You know, doing that. So I do agree that was a misstep with the mill. I think they say the old man says it's a mill and stuff like that, but you never really see them milling. It's more of like, you know,
they're milling around
the sheep. Yeah.
Well, and that's another. Sorry, I think I'm coming in and out here. Can folks still hear me?
You're
Am I
frozen.
frozen? Okay, my video's frozen. My audio is not. Apologies.
Here you're back.
Okay. That was another, I hate keeping to bounce back on this, but there's a lot of people coming in and out of that shack. Whereas the novel version, it is the old man and his two children. And there's a whole backstory about what brought them there and what that means and what the monster creature, the guy, Jacob Elordi, thinks of it. And what that means for how he engages with them and what happens after that. So again, a lot of this stuff is just getting lost in, hey, let's just change this. So there's a little girl in there and she's got this cute relationship with an old man. Then there's these hunters that go up into the woods or up into the mountains to hunt for the season. So they're gone for 2 months, during which our creature is so sophisticated that he goes literally from Victor to when he's having conversations at the end of this season with the old man talking about Keats. I'm like, no. First of all, no. But second of all, and I forgot to mention this point, when did Frankenstein's monster become Wolverine? He's got healing properties where his skin literally closes up around like bullet wounds and stuff. And he's basically invincible. You know, I don't get it.
They briefly talk about, or Victor briefly talks to Christoph Waltz's character about how going through the lymphatic system from behind will like instill regeneration or something like that.
Oh, so it's magic. I got it.
Yes.
Mentioned, you know, it's mentioned, but
Yes.
it isn't, you know, it's a little, you know, it's fantastical.
Right. But here's the thing. The only really fantastical element in Shelley's story is the idea that a gigantic bolt of electricity or scientific meddling can bring dead tissue back to life. And that's it. In fact, one of the really interesting things that was a bit of confusion for someone who's kind of grown up on the movies is there's a moment in the novel. It's the first time that Victor Frankenstein reanimates something. And he creates this creature in a lab that is described as the second room in this shack that he's rented in a little anonymous village. And he brings this thing to life. And then it kind of scurries off because they both kind of freak out. And then that thing disappears for 2 years. Turns out that's the monster. The entire thing about him creating this creature, none of that gigantic labs and castles and baubles and electrodes and all this science stuff, none of that. That's all the creation of Universal Pictures that people have been like ripping off and bastardizing and interpreting for years to come. I thought for sure that was going to be the dry run, and then later he was going to get the equipment and make this thing. No, that was it. In a way, Del Toro is the perfect person to adapt this material because he has a sense of period and fantasy and character. But in another sense, he goes so far with that, particularly now that he's got the Oscar and he's doing all sorts. He's at the point where no one's going to tell him no. I think that's the most dangerous place for a visionary filmmaker to be. But yeah, I want to pull over real quick because we have a bunch of comments here.
While you're pulling over, I'd like to add that that some of the scenes with the old man are some of my favorites. But I've watched it twice now, and as I watched it each time, I'm like, ain't no way this hulking creature isn't going to be snoring in the room next door. Like,
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna hear him sleeping.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And I will say, Shelley's novel is not perfect because, as you mentioned, Katie, I love this point. At no point is, because it's very close quarters that we're led to believe in the novel, as in the film. Someone would have smelled that guy, but they don't bring it up in the book. I don't know if she was maybe not thinking of it. Yeah, perhaps she hadn't been around that many corpses to think like, oh, they're quite ripe.
You might also argue that in those days, everybody kind of
stank.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think everybody is
Stanky.
exactly washing and slathering on the perfumes. They all
the animals.
In those days, they used to bathe once a week if they bathed once a week.
Yeah, but I don't think
Good
he
point.
bathed at all, other than falling into the water from the lab.
But he had all those coats.
One bath.
He did have that Irish Spring as soon as he came out of the he went down the chute. And
Katie, his rags were made with activated charcoal that absorbed
Right.
the odor and
that's right.
There you
turned
go.
it into a
There
fresh
you go.
clean scent.
Oh, real quick too, can we talk about how 50 gallons of kerosene can't burn an entire book? And when the creation went back to the lab and found all the paperwork, I'm like, look, that was a big fire. I have a hard time believing that most of that stuff would have just been like smoldering ash, and then he picks it up and then it disintegrates. But he's like, here's all these papers that I can get. Here's a book
here's the art of Frankenstein.
By all, like, how to make a Frankenstein. Yeah. By all of the kerosenes of fire in the 1600s. It's like, what could go wrong? That totally is plausible. What? No.
Katie, I've got an answer to this. I'm a little bit disappointed that you didn't figure this out. Okay.
What?
It was that all those explosives were manufactured by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. If the opening of Alien Romulus taught us anything, is that you can have 6 nuclear bombs go off in space and still read the logo of the Nostromo on some debris that's floating nearby.
And yet in Star Trek, the motion picture, the Voyager couldn't read Voyager off the side of his very machine.
They didn't have Shatner GPT.
Oh,
anyway,
very nice. Very nice.
On that note, Katie, I'm glad you brought this up because I almost forgotten about it. Again, just adapt the novel and we don't have this problem. When Frankenstein's creature, Jacob Elordi, takes the stick of dynamite and says, "What about this?" And then it blows up and we see him explode from a distance. We go back to him, and not only is he all in one piece, his clothing is lightly kind of singed at the end, but it's magical dynamite that I can understand. Maybe the creature is still intact, but his clothing, like none of that was blown off or in flames or in tatters around him.
So yeah,
it was a Wile E. Coyote cartoon in the middle of this allegedly serious film.
His chest was completely like all blown out and all this stuff, and his hand was disintegrated. Like they sleeved his hand and all that stuff, which they also sleeved a wolf. Which not sleeved, like, sleeve the head of the wolf. But yeah, you are right that even if his body would have been intact, his clothes would have ripped off. It's very Black Adam. Dang it, my stupid glasses aren't working.
By the way, the subtitle for Shelley's original book is The Modern Prometheus. Did anybody else think that Jacob Elordi in the makeup as the creature looked a little bit like the character from the Alien
Yes.
Prometheus film.
A little bit, yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw a meme of that actually.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was watching, I thought this is maybe an Easter egg because Del Toro puts those in there. I mean, the whole idea that, well, we must have Mia play both women because she always plays both women, or the red sort of bonnet that she's wearing, and then of course that echoes the dead mother in the casket. Those kind of connections are very clever on Del Toro's part. But anyway, that's.
Did you catch the blue dress?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that
Or the
was-
wedding dress has the wraparound sleeves like Elsa
Yeah,
Lancaster's. Yeah, those are.
Yeah.
I'm
very
actually
clever
really glad they put that in there because I was thinking, who needs Justine or Henry Clerval when you could have those details? Sorry.
I mean, you're back to my point, which nobody answered, by the way.
Right.
And
Right, that's my point exactly.
I do think
The catalysts for the story are not in this movie.
as well as critics. If the filmmaker, if it hasn't been done properly on screen, shouldn't there be a little more obligation on that person if he's such a fan to present the actual material? It's a very loose interpretation, but it's still not as tight as some books are that have been adapted. And I don't know why we give this a pass or some of these other things such a pass. I mean, Batman has been around for 80 years, and I love Christopher Nolan by and large as a filmmaker, but what he did with some of the characters, like, you've got 85 years of lore. Why did you want to do that to Ra's al Ghul? Ra's al Ghul is such a great character. Same here. Some of these things are great in the book. I have yet to see them on screen, and I've been watching and waiting for it for 40 plus years.
Well, we're still a few years away from the 200th anniversary of 1831, which is when the second version of this book came out. So maybe then. But we're going to go to some comments. Speaking of things to read, Razorblade Mango says, hope everyone is having a good Thursday evening. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yes.
I was forced to read it in my early college years. Yeah, sorry. This is going back to the very beginning of the live stream. So we're playing some catch up here. I think the Kenneth Branagh version is decent too. That's the one with De Niro as the creature. I never saw it.
It's worth a few laughs.
Yeah.
Manuel doesn't come off very well.
De Niro just sorry.
Yeah. Gathering Moss says read it in college.
Hey Tom.
Oh, you know Gathering Moss?
Yeah, it's my buddy Tom.
Oh, nice.
Sweet. Razorbelly Mango says, even as a longtime Del Toro fan like Ian, I thought this was super disappointing. For something that is allegedly a passion project, I think it's the sloppiest and least visually interesting movie he's ever made.
Wow. Wrong.
Not the worst opinion, but definitely the most underwhelming. I'll agree with him. It's
Sloppiest?
Again, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, in terms of the story and the characters and everything, yeah, it's downright sloppy and derivative, and this again, I hate to do this, but it's kind of where we are. If you know where the story beats are in the book, by the time we get to a specific point at the 2-hour mark, you realize, oh, he's just going to have to rush and omit everything important from the second half of the novel in order to get us from here to where the runtime ends. And it doesn't work. Based on the discussion of what we expect out of adaptations, I'm curious what Ian thought of Del Toro's vision of Pinocchio, because of how dramatically different it is to the original story. I didn't see Del Toro's Pinocchio. Did anyone else here see that from a couple of years ago? I heard really good things.
Loved it. It was in my top 10 for the year.
You probably hated Ian.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not that big on the
license there too.
I'm not that big on the Disney Pinocchio story, so I don't really have. I'm not. I'm going to put out my ignorance here. Was Pinocchio based on a book, or is that based strictly on the Disney movie?
Book.
It's a book.
Okay. All right. I never read it. Was it a children's book or is it like an actual novel? I should know this.
I think it's a children's book.
Okay. Oh, well, that's something I'll read, and then I'll do a comparison of the different versions. That's exciting. We need Del Toro's Frankenstein with Herman Munster. Yes.
I'm ready to play the part.
With Russell Crowe's Herman Goring. Oh, sorry.
Wow. Dead Bang Wildcat. Oh, I love these names. It is better that the movie or TV adaptation be changed or altered than the other way around. The source of the story shall stay pure at its core and untouched. I love the declarative nature of that, sir. Wow, I didn't expect to find another person who despises the shape of water like I do. Well, kindred spirits over here. Even Hellboy is an exploration of Del Toro's career-long theme of finding the humanity in monsters. Yep. Frankenweenie is awesome. I will say I really liked everything having to do with the friendship between the creature and the blind man in the woods. I could have watched a whole movie about that friendship.
Yeah.
I feel that if 8 people read the book, this is Dead Bang Wildcat again, of Mary Shelley, and each made a page for made page for page a film of the book they read, you would have 8 different versions of the book. Incorrect.
Interesting.
Not
they might
correct.
have different physical interpretations of
Yes,
storytelling.
visually, sure, but if you're talking about
making the book,
yeah, if you're talking about literally adapting it, then you're talking about stage direction and dialogue, which you can copy straight from the page. Now, yeah,
I will say this just as a comparison, Ian, just to go back, sorry to interrupt. The Walking Dead as a comparison isn't quite accurate either, because it not only was an ongoing thing, but the long form television is a series that you probably have to do different things with, and maybe weaving in characters to follow. I can understand some of the arguments. When you have a book that can easily be made into a 2-hour movie, I think the amount of changes are not really quite right. I disagree a little bit with that. Not saying that you
I only brought it up because of deviations.
Yes, I agree, which I understand, but I'm saying again, there's, I think, a responsibility to more of the core material, but that's maybe me, standing on principle or whatever you want to call it.
Really quick here, back to Frankenweenie. Did any of these adaptations or versions or iterations ever deal with the creature's genitalia? Because I think Victor did he make him eunuch? Did he just skip over
Young
that?
Frankenstein.
Did he make him like a Ken? Or
Young Frankenstein did.
Okay, maybe I forgot.
They
that
talk
part.
about his
Sweet Mystery of Life.
Huge Veelslapper.
Oh, okay, all right.
I feel like there's an adult version waiting to be made called Frankenstein.
I'm sure there is.
With Jason Statham as
there had to have.
I will say though,
he'd make a good creature.
I'm a monster.
I have a question. Everyone keeps saying that none of these adaptations of the book actually are the book. I think Dead Bang Wildcat has a great idea. What if there were directors who each took a chapter of the book, and then you have a series to see, how this Frankenstein actually should look?
It's interesting.
Yeah, they did that with and I never saw it. Thank you for reminding me. But there's that Bob Dylan movie from years ago. I'm not there, where they had different short stories about Bob Dylan, but they're all played by different people, including I think Kate Blanchett. Right?
Blanchett got an Oscar nomination for supporting actress.
Right. Yeah, I think there's something there, but I think the core is that I would be all for that if the agreement was we're actually going to adapt the book.
Yeah. If they actually were true to each, because I don't know how many chapters are in the book, but if each
25
one had, a chapter to, adapt that and then just combine it all together, I think that's, let's make that happen, kids.
And it's also interesting because there is, I think, enough variation in setting and tone of what's going on in a lot of those chapters that even if you didn't do a new director for each chapter, you could say, okay, you're going to do the lab stuff, or you're going to do the out in the Arctic stuff, or you're different directors, different visions to tackle the various aspects of that depending where we are in time. I hope you're listening, Netflix. Razorblade Mango says, I'm with Jeff on the adaptation debate. Even if a movie is based on existing material, I think the filmmaker has every right to reinterpret and modify things as they see fit. Yes, they do have the right to do that, but I am not in any way obliged to accept the changes that they make, and I think that's where we're at. I feel that if 8 people read, let's see, didn't they? Oh, this is a copied comment. Okay. Ian, you're losing me on dissing those coffins. Those look cool as hell. Look,
Brian, I think Brian flipped over to the comments page and wrote that there.
I am Razorblade Mango.
Explains it because you all along. No, here's the thing.
The monster's in the house
right against you. Yeah.
Stranger calls.
I'm not arguing that the coffins weren't cool.
Yes, you did.
Well,
you totally
okay,
did. You said they weren't cool.
okay.
You
They're
did.
not cool in the context of being in this movie. When I saw it, I was like, "That's an interesting coffin, but what is it doing here?" Like, that's
Being
not.
cool,
What?
What's it doing here?
looking awesome. That's what
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
looking awesome. You can't just have like a regular coffin. It kind of goes with the same problems that I had with everything leading up to that. That whole family backstory is completely different. The whole idea of the abusive father who dies and he's like this
I feel
world-renowned
like you
surgeon. All
hated
this.
this movie from the opening shot.
No, you are not from the opening shot. The opening minute, the opening shot. I'm like, fine. We're starting out in the Arctic. But from the moment Frankenstein's creature starts attacking the people on the boat, I'm like,
Yes, that's crazy.
oh, we're not anywhere near the point of this story. And the whole thing with the family, the father, Victor Frankenstein's father, is a loving father who wants nothing more than for his son to come home because he's been in self-imposed exile for years in a foreign country doing these crazy science experiments. He even sends Victor's best childhood friend to go retrieve him, and they go off on a side adventure involving, well, I'll leave that for people to discover or rediscover. But yes,
Is that
No.
Elizabeth?
No,
Oh, that's
it's his-
not.
no, it's his friend Henry Clerval, who I mentioned earlier, who is a central figure in the novel, along with Justine, who is essentially an inciting incident for all the problems that Victor Frankenstein encounters with the creature, except for Will, who, again, was maybe 5 years old and not 21 and engaged to. I'm getting more frustrated talking about this. Anyhow, my problem with the coffin was it was emblematic of the overblown, redone nature of what Guillermo del Toro did with this whole backstory and this whole family. It makes sense in the reality he created, but as someone who was excited to watch an adaptation of Frankenstein, I'm like, what is this nonsense? It's like, and I mentioned this, I think, on our Predator Badlands discussion, it's like going from what Tim Burton did with his Batman films to all of a sudden you have Joel Schumacher and you're like, no, seriously, guys, I thought we were making art here. All right, now, let's see. If anything, I wish Del Toro took even greater liberties with the story and added more colorful, fantastical, and weird stuff. I don't see how he could possibly add more. I mean, we got down to the point where he's like, Victor Frankenstein is having these BS visions of an angel who's guiding him, and all of that was like concept art for Hellboy 3.
I think maybe that was cocaine in the 1600s that was
Sure.
like just going around. I mean, even when he was supposed to be like 10 seeing that, I don't know. I feel like that had to do with some sort of like mental thing that he had done, or just, the shock after losing, because he saw that after he lost his mom, didn't he, for the first time, and then he kept seeing it, or I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know. That was probably one of the several quote unquote story points at which I zoned out. I'm like, none of this is important. I can imagine Ian in the theater yelling at the screen, "That wheel is too big, 0 out of 10." We've established.
I could totally see that too.
I would not see this in the theater. If I were given the chance, like, hey, go check it out again. No. And second of all, that's not the point. It's not that the wheel is too big. It's that the wheel is there at all. There is no spoon, sir.
Plus, you respect the theater. You wouldn't yell in a theater.
No, I would probably do what I did during Elizabethtown and have like a quiet, shaking panic attack.
I had no idea we'd be talking about Elizabethtown, but okay, here we go.
I made an agreement with my therapist and my God that I would never bring that movie up again, but here we are.
What?
All right.
No.
The bit where the deer was shot in front of the creature reminded me way too much of the very similar moment in The Iron Giant.
Nothing wrong with
that. Yeah, I got this flash of Jacob Elordi as the Iron Giant. Superman. You mean you all don't have dynamite resistant clothes? Get with the times, people. Good point. For the record, I really like Del Toro's Pinocchio. The ending hit me like a truck.
Yep.
Ouch.
Okay. Now I got to check it out. I have the Art of book. but I've never watched the movie. I think a perfect example of this adaptation debate is Zack Snyder's adaptation of Watchmen. No, my I liked Zack Snyder's Watchmen up to the part where they chickened out and decided not to make the thing that destroyed the city a giant space alien like in the novel, or the graphic novel. It was a
And there were
big
no
EMP.
squids.
Right.
It might have been better a little bit as well if it was longer.
And less needle drops.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's the thing is like for what it was and the time it came out, I don't think anybody had any conception that it was possible to adapt Watchmen. But yeah, I think it was pretty solid.
I'm in the minority where I think Snyder's best film is the animated owl movie.
Oh, was that the thing of Ga'Hoole or whatever?
Guardians of Ga'Hoole, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
I like Watchmen.
I also might be in the minority amongst this panel here,
Frankenstein.
but my favorite Del Toro movie is also Crimson Peak.
It's up there for me. That was actually a situation where when it came out, I don't remember it being that critically appreciated.
It wasn't. It was kind of reviled by a certain section of critics, which I'm not quite sure I understand why, because I thought it was a pretty daring story, and the character of the house was terrifying, and the ghosts and everything else. It really played. I mean, it didn't hit me quite like the truck at the end of Pinocchio, but I was like disturbed from beginning to end.
The best part of that movie is when they had the discussion about who was the best Silver Surfer, Mobius or Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Crimson Tide. Sorry.
I'm going to court-martial you for that.
Oh, David.
Put him in the bag.
Fine. I'm a Nightmare Alley fan. I said it.
Ooh.
I like it.
Ooh,
I
wow.
love every character in it. I think it's great. I know it's not a popular opinion. I don't care. I like the color. I like it in color. I like it in black and white.
It looks good.
Katie,
Frankenschlong.
Katie, do me a favor.
What?
With regards to Nightmare Alley, never read the book.
I don't read, you guys, and that's why. I mean, all of you guys keep saying that the books are so much better. I'm like, this is why I don't read the books, because I just watch the movies.
Wow.
There's a lot to unpack there, but let's see. Give him Nosferatu's monster salami. What? Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Or the
Oh, that was-
28 years later, dude.
Yes.
Oh, what was that character's
Alpha.
name?
The Sam
28
Alpha.
Jesus God.
28 inches later.
28 inches
I
later.
am Groot. Yes, indeed. Mr. Drunk.
You know, I heard they covered him up for the second one.
Oh, man.
Really?
Yeah.
It's too
That's what I
distracting.
said.
Oh.
Hellboy 2 is great.
Hellboy
like
2 is
both
my
Hellboys.
favorite Del Toro joint. Yeah, it's weird because and it does show that my opinions are changeable. I did not like Hellboy 2 when I first saw it, and then I revisited it a few years later, and now I really adore that movie.
And Blade 2.
I like Blade. I like Blade 2. I don't know. I think there's like the more I think back on it, the more I see like Del Toro-isms, and they just bug the crap out of me. Like he's got this obsession with Jaws, not the shark, but like jaw ripping and the giant mandible predator jaw
Del
things.
Toro Predator movie. Oh, sorry.
We already had that. It was called Blade 2. Let's see. Oh my God. I hated Hellboy 2 the first time I saw it. Loved it on my second viewing ever since. Guys, here's the secret. I am actually Razor Blade Mango.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's like an echo.
Yeah.
Echo
No,
chamber.
he called me to task for a couple of things. So,
By the way,
right.
I think Brian should lend his voice to the Haunted Mansion. You've got this great sort of timbre to your voice, which reminds me of Welcome to the Haunted Mansion.
Brian has one of my favorite voices
Hot
ever.
and cold, running chills.
I mean, I'd be happy to talk about how much this movie rules. Like,
Yeah.
There
you
you
know,
go.
It's cool and it rules.
there you go. Well, let's talk more about this rulage, Brian. What, anything else that you want to add to that?
well, like
That we haven't discussed, I
Listening-
mean, yeah.
listening, just like kind of echo some of Katie's sentiments, because I kind of looked at, like I've personally, right, like in terms of getting personal here. Like I've always had an issue with my father, right? So watching this movie, I really connected with it in this regard, in this way. Especially when Katie was talking about just the parenting, you know, like as a father of my own kid, I could never imagine like creating something and then just kind of like, oh, just kind of do your own thing or whatever, like not nurturing it, not actually, you know, helping it grow or whatever. And just watching this movie and understanding the original author was a female. So like the perspective of the father son was coming from a female.
Mhm.
And this one, it's like, it's coming from a male adapting a female's perspective of this father-son relationship.
But
you know?
but here's the thing. I appreciate what you're saying, and I also had severe issues with my father. And this also goes back to our Predator Badlands discussion, which I think people should go check out. Shameless plug. But it's a trope that I cannot wait until we're out of this terrible era of filmmaking where every movie now, especially coming out of the Disney Corporation, has to do with daddy issues leading to people, you know, found family and all this other stuff. It's really tired and trite. But what you said there, Brian, again, we have to stop using the word adaptation, because you're saying that Shelley got into the mind of the male psyche and drew out some interesting things, and then Del Toro is taking his spin on it, using what she had to say about it. She didn't have anything to say about it with regards to Frankenstein and his father, except for what a loving, nurturing father will do for his son, even though the son goes off to pursue his own thing. The dad wants to bring him back. He's not a cold, removed, you know, cruel dad who whips his son when he gets the answer wrong. So that's where we get all kind of mixed up here, is like, it's a nice idea, but that's not what we're talking about.
See, but I argue that like I wasn't mixed up like watching it. Like I felt it, right? Like I think that
I'm saying like you drew that from what Del Toro had to say, but Del Toro is not picking any of that up from what he pulled from Shelley.
Well, my question, actually, let me just ask them both, Katie and Brian, because I think that theme is there, but it's between Victor as the father and his creation as his pseudo son, if you will.
Right.
Not really about Victor and the Charles Dance character here.
Exactly.
Well, also, I mean, because Victor
Yep.
didn't grow up with a loving father,
Right.
he wasn't inclined to.
And I think that's what Shelley's doing. Good.
Yeah, and he wasn't even inclined to think about what would happen after, you know, creation. I recently saw. Well, I was one of the few people who saw that animated kids flick Stitchhead, which is kind of a truncated version of, you know, Frankenstein. It's cute and everything, and it's a good gateway film for young, like 8 to 10-year-olds. The one thing that cracked me up about that movie, which it would have been nice to see maybe hear a little bit, is that the mad scientist in that animated feature, voiced brilliantly by Rob Brydon, he kept on making new monsters all the time. And there was really no, like, he would just dispose of them in the other room. And his first creation, the boy, Stitchhead, was basically kind of like by default in charge of kind of like being the nanny of those monsters. And so they would be disposed at a different part of the castle. And he was like, oh, here's a new one. Let me introduce you to the castle and everything. It's very cute and everything. But I like the idea of this mad scientist so obsessed with creating, he wasn't thinking about what was happening after that, you know, and just be discarding. And you get that here with like the Victor. I mean, you know, he has really no idea. He's so obsessed with death and preventing death that he's not really thinking about life, you know, and what happens after, you know, that's like, it's, you know, what happens after birth, you know, after reanimation, what happens then? You have a responsibility. And he really, it's once he realizes that he didn't think about it, he doesn't even care about it.
Right.
Well, and that's it's an interesting idea, but the more nuanced version of what happens on the page and not in this film.
Of course it does.
Not really. because the idea of obsession.
No, I'm saying, of course, it does happen on the page.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I thought you meant in the
No.
film, but
I thought Ian was like arguing himself for a second.
No, you're definitely going to get more nuance. I mean, it's a book. You're going to get more nuance, more dimension, everything like that. But
this goes back to what I was saying earlier. There's no reason you can't translate that to the screenplay, because when I'm talking about nuance, I'm not talking about, oh, we need paragraphs to explain some lofty idea. It just takes a small tweak, because you know, in the novel, it comes across as Victor Frankenstein is trying to reanimate tissue, right? But he's shocked when the thing that comes back from his experiments actually has a soul. And he feels very guilty about that because he had never conceived of it. He had never, at no point does he become this arrogant, like angry, tyrannical fiend like every other version of Victor Frankenstein we've seen in every other movie. He's a remorseful character he becomes petty and he becomes spiteful because in his interactions with the monster, they keep kind of setting each other up. It's these chess games of like spite and tragedy that keep playing off of each other until they both end up damned at the end. Whereas in this one, he just turns into this cartoon villain who, at the end of the film, he accidentally shoots Elizabeth and then he blames it on the monster, just like the scene before with the old man 15 minutes earlier. The wolves attack the shack and the people barge in just as the monster's like holding the old man. Oh my gosh, it must be the monster killed him. Like you had that same trope play out within 15 minutes of each other. Neither of these scenes was in the novel because
parallels.
Okay, you can do parallels, like set that up at the beginning and then pay it off at the end, but we are doing it within 15 minutes of each other. Like, I just watched this, you guys, and it sucked the first time too.
Would you say that possibly the reason why Hollywood and entertainment has made Dr. Frankenstein the maniacal and crazed person that he is because if, as you're saying in the book, that the doctor is saying he just want to do that, wouldn't it be even more scary if a sane person just wanted to reanimate life, and you know how that could possibly influence a lot of people? It's like, well, I'm just doing it for science, it's all good.
Well, no, because that's what scientists do. I mean, without that attitude, we wouldn't have the Giant Hadron Collider. We wouldn't have split the atomic bomb. I mean, people are constantly in our modern day world pushing the boundaries of science, religion, cloning, whatever. So I think that's what Frankenstein, and that's the big takeaway that I took from the novel, because I had been raised again on horror movies and sort of like the pop landscape of this being a great horror novel. And it's not. It's a great gothic science fiction novel with flavors of horror that mostly have to do with the theme. There's not all this talk of like, ooh, that he reached in and grabbed all these dripping skulls and all this cool blood and stuff. No, that's not what this story is. But what the horror comes out with this person who starts out, obsessive and brilliant, but very curious, and he gets in over his head, and the guilt of what he's created leads to a tragic incident that compounds his guilt, which leads to another tragic incident, which compounds his guilt and makes him angry. And eventually the creature that comes back to him after 2 years seeks love and understanding and asks him, as at the very end of this movie, hey, can you please make me a partner? That part's sort of in there, but they screw all of that up. They just keep going back and forth. They can't communicate with each other, and the tragedy deepens. So the horror is, oh my God, why can't we just talk to each other? And if you want to look at parallels, the novel would be a perfect movie to adapt for today. Because what do we have? We've got people who are retreating. They're not necessarily pushing the boundaries of science, but they're retreating into their own social isolation bubbles, the internet, constantly looking for truth in sort of all the wrong places and getting misinformation. And what you have is a breakdown of community and family and people reaching out. So yeah, you could tell that story today and have it be resonant. And the lesson is we all need each other, and we need to pull each other back from the brink, because we think we're pursuing happiness, but we're just retreating into ourselves when we should be expanding outward, because that's where the true love is. That's the lesson of Frankenstein. The lesson of this movie is Isn't it cool?
No.
All right. Here's a question. Wait. From Chrissy West Coast. Has anyone talked?
No.
No.
But it gets better, gang. Sorry, butt dial. Continue on. I don't even know how to take that comment.
Well, he might have been writing somebody else or something, I guess.
I just like to think that someone butt dialed the live stream. Is that a first? It's got to be. Thank you, Chrissy. All right. Well, we are almost at 9:30 here. So I want to leave the floor open for people to talk about, like, is there a particular moment or scene that really just like blew you away? Something that really, that we haven't talked about that made you appreciate like Del Toro's take on Frankenstein? Is there something you want to get out? Like, I got to talk about this.
Well, I mean, I really like the design and overall, like, the makeup of the look of the creature was really cool to me. I mean, yes, eventually once he gets the long hair, it's very much inspired by Bernie Wrightson's depiction of him, and that's very cool to me.
Yes.
Again, cool, Ian. I just liked
Bernie Wrightson was adapting the story in illustration.
Yes, but it was his look. Okay. Yeah. So I got so tired of seeing the same kind of, like, Universal monster type, Boris Karloff. And hey, don't get me wrong, I love Phil Hartman's Frankenstein and Saturday Night Live. I love that stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
You're bad.
That stuff's great. But this is just so, like, it's his physicality, his figuring out his body, his figuring out his voice. I think the first time we hear him chuckle is when he's eating the berries with the deer. I mean, I thought that was a beautiful scene. Just him discovering life. And when he's out in the open and he is roaming in the forest for the first time after he went down the water slide, he, for the first time, it's almost like he has agency to do, kind of explore the world, do whatever he wants until the hunters come and everything. But it's almost like a different movie. It's kind of beautiful, just to see, how this creature could actually, away from his creator, he could kind of be his own thing. And I just thought Elordi, I had really no expectations. I just knew that, like, he was the way too tall Elvis Presley and Sofia Coppola's Priscilla. But I thought that he did an amazing job here, and I like the design work and how everything, there's certain parts that are healed more than others. And I know there's the whole Deadpool regeneration thing, but I mean, I thought that he was really kind of just, he ran away with the movie for me.
Cool.
Agreed. I really like the scene where Elizabeth is dying in his arms, and she professes like the things that led to this particular moment. Like, she was searching for something and she's never found it, like, up until this moment, and it's all worth it just to experience this or whatever. I think that was just on its own just a beautiful scene, like encapsulated in this, like, big budget monster movie or whatever. I really like the quiet moments in this movie in terms of just like David said, like him figuring out himself, him being out in the world and just, oh, look at that, that's an animal, that's more people or whatever. Unfortunately, every time he meets new people, he's like running away from them or whatever.
Disappointment.
Yeah. Which I could totally,
I can relate to that.
Right. I just think that it's a movie that I think it'll endure through time. Like, I think people will just come back to it. Like, I already did. I think it's super rewatchable. Like I said, I think if it was longer, like for me, if this was more of like a mini series or whatever, I think I would have just eaten it up. I think, like, yes, if you're going to adapt a book page by page, this is probably not the movie for you. But, if you're going to just watch a movie called Frankenstein, and I've never watched like the interviews that Del Toro did saying that, oh, I'm going for an exact adaptation of Mary Shelley's, whatever. I just think on its own merits, it's a beautiful Del Toro movie. And it's an interesting Frankenstein movie for me, especially from somebody that's never really been a huge Frankenstein guy, So,
Have you watched the Hammer Frankensteins?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take any of those over this.
Oh, I know
any day.
you'll take. Jesus Christ, you'll take
Yes, I will.
anything over this thing, right?
Well, no, I mean, because
Carpenter's son.
that's the puzzlement. I mean,
Are you
because-
gonna be watching that Christian Bale one that's coming out?
that looks terrible. That looks absolutely awful.
What if it's more of a traditional adaptation of
I'm pretty sure Frankenstein and the Bride weren't like getting into fist fights in an alley in the 20s or whenever the hell that movie's supposed to take place. But no, I mean, it's interesting because that's the thing. It was kind of the revelation to me was what in the various versions of those films, which they're not exactly sequels to each other, but there is some semblance of continuity, sort of like the Batman films. The depth that they were able to give to the creature and explore that relationship with Victor Frankenstein, who's an absolute monster played by Peter Cushing in those films. But I don't know. There's just something. Maybe it's because there were more of those films than Del Toro's one movie, so they had more time to breathe. But yeah, I'll take any one of those and their hour-and-a-half runtime versus the 2.5-hour runtime here that is all about like the pretty pictures. I know you guys have brought up the thematic elements and stuff like that, but it's nothing I haven't seen in other movies. Whereas, again, reading the novel Frankenstein, I found I'm almost 50 years old, gang, and I watch a lot of movies and I read a lot of books. So to read something and feel like there are several points in this several 100-page novel where I'm discovering things that I didn't know were possible with the art of story. It's just when I hear that someone's going to make this into a film and then I watch this film and it's like every other movie that's tackled this kind of creature and also has all the hallmarks of this director and it just looks easy to me, it's a big letdown. I don't know if people will come back to it. I'm glad you're rewatching it. It's going to be a perennial hit in the Martinez home, but I feel like this is the epitome of a Netflix movie. It's just going to be something that's in a carousel that people are going to flip past and be like, oh, that's right, Del Toro made a Frankenstein movie. Cool. Anyhow, we're going to go unless Jeff or Katie, do you have any closing thoughts?
Jeff, do you want to?
Nope, I'm done.
All right. All right.
Let me, my favorite scene in the film is probably the scene when Elizabeth sees the creation for the first time and he gives her the leaf and she talks to him like a child. And that just, I know Mia Goth is a new mom and I felt like that was I could almost see her like recreating like something that would have happened with her daughter and stuff. Cause when you're with a small child and some like, look at this is brand new to me. It's like, I've seen this 18 jillion times, but I'm going to be excited for you. And I just thought that was just a beautiful, simple moment between two people and two actors. And as I said before, I think the natural light in this cinematography in this is just gobsmackingly stunning. And despite what people think about some of the costumes, how they don't make sense, I loved it. I mean, let's be honest, 1600s probably full of lice and grossness and a lot of different smells. And I'm fine with the reds and the blues and the greens and making me not think about how absolutely horrific when Victor is going to his house and you see that alley filled with blood and grossness and I can just imagine like the stench from like 100 yards away and how I can't even fathom how he could live like with that right outside his door. So I am fine with all the beauty that doesn't make sense in this film. And, I feel like that is very Del Toro, and I, want more.
It's a perfect way to encapsulate it. It's a lot of beautiful stuff that doesn't make any sense. Katie, I want to ask you about, because I'd forgotten about this point, but you really like that scene between Elizabeth meeting them and her meeting the monster. I had a lot of problems with it because, and you mentioned Mia Goth being a new mom. I assume that her daughter is not a reanimated corpse, because when she first sees this creature, she sees it from across. She understands what it is immediately, but there's no sense of, oh my God, there's a giant assemblage of human body parts that is now standing across from me, and it's talking. William, when he first encounters it, when he goes down to the dungeon, he has the appropriate reaction, which is, oh my God, what is that thing? Let's get away from it. She doesn't know that it's a kindly, gently creature. She just, that whole thing is very screenwriterly, and it doesn't make any sense, even for her character, even if she's quote unquote into bugs.
No. You remember that scene where she walks in on the torso, right? Like, and even Victor is like surprised, like, oh shit, like you're into this stuff. And she just like acted naturally, like this is what she's attracted to, So
yeah,
I don't
and
think,
again,
I don't
that's
see her...
that's a very screenwriterly thing to do. We want to make her a cool chick, so we're going to make it. It's not. There's nothing in here that resembles a human emotion until we get to that bit with William
she
and his
bought
reaction
some
to
bug books, man. Come on.
Yeah, the whole thing just felt completely contrived. On top of her relationship with William, and she's kind of seeing Victor, but she's kind of not. She's just toying with him. Like that death scene, I was frankly glad she was gone, because Mia Goth is a great actress in Ty West movies, but here she had this like weird marble mouth, like not really a British accent thing going, on top of the fact that she's playing a despicable character. Now that is in contrast to the Elizabeth from the novel, who is more of the pure-hearted kind of, she is the ideal that Victor is trying to make his way back to. I understand that. The Elizabeth here is a more fleshed out character, but she's also kind of an awful character. And I don't know why anybody would be obsessed with her. What makes her awful? The fact that she never has a kind word to say to or about William or Victor Frankenstein. The only person she relates to is this monster, which again is a thematic point. But when at the end, when she's showing up and she's like in this romantic thing with the creature, Victor shoots her, which, my goodness, that whole thing, like he raises the gun and she jumps in front of it and catches the bullet. I mean, I could have told you how that scene was playing out before he entered the room, and it bothered the crap out of me. But there's nothing in the writing of Elizabeth that suggests she is anybody that anybody would be interested in.
Going back to like what you said, I think when she sees the creature, right, for the first time, and she just feels that like the creature isn't objectifying her, he sees her as just like this being or whatever, same as she sees him, right? When she's in the confessional and she's basically like I've known you've been like watching me this whole time or whatever, like I feel like she's just playing these men because they see her as like this prize or whatever, right? And I think she is so past that. Like I think it's very very, very awesome, like in terms of just like having this strong female character.
But here's I don't think she's a strong female character.
I do. I think
she is a character with
choices
agency.
She makes.
Yeah, and I think that they're all awful choices that are, it feels like a guy trying to write what he thinks women want to see in his screenplay, and none of it is as powerful as the Elizabeth or the relationships of the men to Elizabeth that was written by a woman 200 years ago on the page. I feel like this screenplay takes Elizabeth 10 steps backward. And again, it's all choices. And we can, again, I hate to use that phrase, agree to disagree, but that's Elizabeth is such the shadow on the screen in the screenplay versus on the novel page that it was distracting and frankly more than a bit upsetting. But yeah, I was glad to see her go. Anyway, I did love Mia Goth's look. I think she a very striking looking Elizabeth, but then she started talking. Anyway, we're gonna go because I promised everyone we'd get out of here by 9:30, and I did not live up to my promise.
We haven't even talked about Igor.
Could be wood. Could
that
be
would've-
raining.
That. All right. Couple of comments. Good discussion, everyone. Hope you all have a good night.
Thank you, Razorblade.
Chrissy says, this is an answer to the butt dial thing. I was trying to lurk in the shadows watching your live stream, much like the creature did in the movie. I mean, it made it look so easy. I was going to ask if you guys talked about the red gloves. Victor wore them quite a lot while he cut and manipulated dead flesh and then slept them on. I couldn't get out of my head. Were those gloves red before he started doing the body stuff?
Yes.
Or they just
Like his connection to his mother.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like this hat.
Blood on
Like
his
his little
hand.
hat. off
Yeah.
to the side.
When he was walking around the village with that,
Yeah.
it was like
And the cane.
it's like a musketeer or something.
Or Van Helsing. He looked very much like Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing.
Oh.
And
Which
one
we didn't
of
even talk about his prosthetic, which was badass for 1600s.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure they had those.
So mad.
in an interview with Del Toro,
Yes, because this is terrible. Sorry, go ahead.
Del Toro has said that like he wanted he was talking about the difference between the creature in Shape of Water and like he wanted to like direct him like he was giving Doug Jones like as far as like body language, like okay, be like David Bowie, and then like with Oscar Isaac he was saying, all right, swagger like Mick Jagger or something like that, you know. So it's like you could see like when I mentioned like how Victor was kind of like just sashaying throughout the rainy dank streets, you know, and he's just I could see like a little bit of Mick Jagger there.
Little
You know?
strut.
Like Jagger.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was kind of-
Yeah.
Little pimp strut.
Yeah.
I will say the one visual detail I appreciated in the movie was when he was sawing off that leg and he was getting in there into the calf meat. That was nice. Maybe want to get a sandwich.
See,
think
there
that's
you
more-
go.
Yep.
There, let's leave it on a high note. There
Yes.
you go.
Let's push this ship out to sea.
Yes.
Oh.
Don't even get me started on that nonsense. Damn it, David. I almost forgot about it and you pulled me back in.
That's because we didn't talk about the movie. We talked about how much you hated the movie.
Right.
Basically, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have all these notes over
Then
here,
jump in with them.
but it's already 9:42. But I just want to say, like, I'm glad that I'm here talking with you fine people, and I don't know. I wish that we talked more about how this movie was goddamn amazing. So
I wish we
I
had to, but we don't live in a parallel universe, Brian. So what?
I said I talked about how it was amazing.
That's true. That's true.
Except for the Twilight Wolves. I talked about how it was amazing.
The only thing I wish would have happened a little bit more is that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more madness in Victor.
yeah,
I got the obsession and everything, and that was, you know, fine. And, you know, we talked about how he wasn't really thinking about, you know, post reanimation, like what would happen there. But just like, you know, you know, and maybe the madness stigma of Victor Frankenstein was all movie type stuff, you know, but, you know, I would have liked a little bit more crazy. But,
I think in the book he's more selfish than crazy.
yeah.
It's about him not being a father, and then
Yeah.
that's the theme. He is not a father to his creation, and we all want to be God, but we don't want to take any responsibility for that. And as Jason Wilbard said in Parenthood, you never stop being a parent.
Yep.
And he wanted to stop as soon as he saw it. Went, shit, I really just wanted to create this and be egotistical. Now I've got to somehow be responsible for this. Let me hide.
Mhm.
Well, but
you almost
Jeff,
see
I mean,
that.
there's- I'm
You
sorry,
almost
go
see
ahead.
that like when he goes to sleep and then he wakes up and he's like right there, like
right.
in his room. Like you see that like that duality of like
Right.
holy shit, it's alive. Oh my
That's
God, what do I
great.
do now? You know,
Yeah.
like,
But then when he's talking to him 10 minutes later, like he's a bad waiter, you know, like, can't you say anything else? What is it? I mean, it's so Mel Brooks at that point. It's
A
like,
bad waiter. That's great.
Well,
why can't you do
I
something
don't know.
down
I
here?
thought the
These
madness
leaves are
was more
clogging up the
rage.
water system. Can't you at least pick these leaves up? Oh, but you're showing them off to my brother's girlfriend. Come on.
Well,
I'm trying
but
to
here,
get a few laughs
Jeff,
there at the end.
something you had said a minute ago, and then I promise we'll wind down.
bad waiter.
Because Chrissy gave us permission because she said it's 7:43 on the West Coast. Go ahead and talk.
Oh,
I
there
won't
you go.
tell.
Nice.
Nice, Chrissy.
Thanks, Chrissy.
We haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
Probably 73
Welcome.
degrees there too.
We're going to do a mini series on this because Brian wanted it longer.
We're going as long as the movie.
There you go.
Exactly.
Damn it.
We're doing Frankenschlong on this one.
Wow.
Nice.
But no, the whole idea of the selfishness and the madness and turning your back on your creation, there's a little bit of that in the novel, but that attitude evolves because, Jeff, as you'll probably recall, at the point of the story where the creature makes a deal with Victor to make him a bride,
Right, that's right.
he agrees.
Yep.
And he says, I'm going to give you some time to go do this. And I know you might have to travel some places to get your materials together and learn about like how to make a woman, which is its whole other side quest. But I'm going to be watching you. Wherever you go, I'm going to be there.
Yep.
And what it comes down to is Victor agrees to this, partially to figure out if he can elude the creature, partially to figure out if he can actually do this, because he says, look, if all it's going to take to keep this murderous monster, and yes, he is a murderer in the novel, very important thematic stuff that is nowhere in the film. If I can get this thing off my tail because it has promised to leave me alone if I make it a mate, then I will spare the rest of humanity from having this thing walking around and killing people because it hates me. But he decides, wait a second, if I actually build this creature, there's no guarantee that this woman I'm going to make is going to agree to that exile. So it might have its own agency, which again, going back to 1818 and 1831, speaks a whole lot about feminism and the idea of agency. And Mary Shelley's mother was a proto-feminist who unfortunately died 10 days after she was born. Her mother died after Mary Shelley was born, not after she herself was born. But so he destroys the creature, the bride of Frankenstein. This is in the first novel. This isn't the sequel of the film was kind of based on seeds that were from this book, which is very fascinating to think about. But Victor destroys this thing because he's like, I can't have two creatures running around. I might have the wrath of one of them on my back, and it's probably going to end up in both our destruction, but at least I can deal with one. Humanity can't deal with two. There is some kind of a weird idea of like, what if you have children in this movie, but it's a line that's glossed over and there's no pensiveness, no contemplation here.
I wish Oscar Isaac would have grabbed the creature's crotch when he said that.
Like
I
a
can see
nervous
that.
tick. You know,
It's also interesting that Oscar Isaac basically played this role before, again, sort of the hubris in Ex Machina, which is also a very sort of modern take on Frankenstein in its way.
Love it.
Yes, as I like to call it, ex-masterpiece.
I love that
movie.
film. Me too.
Great movie.
Yeah.
so good.
Fantastic movie.
All right. So we're
My
going to
beer
leave
is
this.
done, so we got to go.
Yes. Well,
Oh, I thought you were waiting for the bad waiter to refill it.
Didn't you say anything? What are the specials?
Victor.
What are the specials?
Brian.
Last comment here. Cheap viewers on Streamboo, everybody. Get on
That's
that.
when you know we need to close.
That's right.
Yes.
That is a fat lady
The
singing
bots have entered the
of
chat.
kicking the seat. That's
All right.
it.
Well, everybody.
Unearned biochemistic. What? Okay.
What?
That's the name of the person.
Oh, unearned biochemistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, well,
Yeah.
anyway, everybody, thank you very much for hanging out for this long, rambling, very contentious, but
Talking about the
ultimately
book.
loving discussion. Yes. Brian, I promise we'll get to your notes when we talk about we'll do a part two.
Put the
Um,
notes.
We'll do
Yeah, I'll put the
Part
notes in the
two
chat. Send them to me.
we'll do part 2 on just the book, and then
There you
on just
go.
your notes.
Once you read it and then you watch the movie and be like, what the hell was this crap, Guillermo? Guillermo Del Toro. Anyhow,
Brian will read
podcast
his
will be
notes to
more about
Katie.
the book than the
Yes,
TV was.
read your notes to me, Brian. I will appreciate them.
And she'll use it to play it to use it to go to sleep.
Yes,
ASMR.
Brian and
Guillermo
Martinez
Del Toro.
books on
I
tape.
believe monsters are people. Now go to sleep under the house.
Good
with the
night,
rats
Moon.
and the little creatures that are going to soon sing Cinderelli, Cinderelli.
no. Anyway, I'm going to wish everyone a lovely evening. Thank you to all of Earth's Mightiest Critics. Thank you to those in the chat who jumped in, even the one who's encouraging us to go to Streamboo. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, Jeff York of The Establishing Shot and Pipeline Artists, Katie Glidewell, the bride in front, aka the blonde in front, David Fowley, who is always keeping it real, and Brian Martinez, let me try that again, of the Giallo Room and the copious Frankenstein notes. Thank you for hanging out and talking about this movie. Folks, if you like this live stream, please like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Be sure and follow all of Earth's Mightiest Critics. Their information is down below. Join us back next week when, against all better judgment, we're going to do this again, talking about another book adaptation, another Stephen King adaptation.
Oh.
We're going to be talking about The Running Man.
If you liked Ian being disappointed twice this week, you'll like him being disappointed
Tune in.
next week.
Here comes the turkey
When Running
kid.
Man loses
triptych.
steam. I have a feeling I'm going to be on the news for getting
Kicking the
kicked out of a
triptych.
theater. Yes. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Till next time, whatever that is. Thank you very much, and take care.
Peace.
Put